Welcome to episode 11 of CrystalCast. In this episode we have the pleasure of being joined by Beth Fisher and Caron Schreuder from Medianett. Many of you will know them as the force behind B&C, behind the B&C Awards and the magazine, etc. But today we dig a little bit deeper in the role that media has in today's marketplace and the role of diversity and why we should all be looking at the Women in Finance Charter. As always, all the information provided is for the use of financial intermediaries only. So today we're joined by Caron Schreuder, Managing Director of Medianett, and Beth Fisher, Editor of Medianett. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for coming up and joining us today.
Thank you.
So to start off with, for regular subscribers, you'll know the first question. Can you tell us 3 surprising things about you? Who wants to go first?
Beth. Me? Yes. Okay. One thing, which is really embarrassing, is I was on Britain's Got Talent when I was quite a bit younger. I think I was 14 or 15. You always laugh at this. 14 or 15, I think it was, as part of a girl band with my friends, and it was very fun. We never actually made it onto TV, but we got onto the live audition segment, so it was really fun. Wow. I really enjoyed it, and I played the drums, which was
this just keeps getting better.
Really fun. And I think we got buzzed off in like the first 5 or 10 seconds. So yeah, I mean, it was a really fun experience as like a teenager, but that is something which I don't think many people know because we weren't ever actually on the TV show. But that was really fun. So yeah, that's probably one thing. Another, I have a very weird crush on Dick Van Dyke, and I have done for many years. He's actually my screensaver on my laptop. Yeah, so that's.
I don't even know who Dick Van Dyke is.
Oh, for God's sake!
I still don't know who he is.
You do? Did you do Bang Bang?
No idea.
Okay. Mary Poppins? Come on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's another weird, but I'm really gonna regret this. Yeah, that's another one. Third. Actually, I have a couple of things. It's a bit boring, but I don't think people would expect it. But I completed my Gold Duke of Edinburgh award, and I don't think many people would. I don't know if that's a cool one.
Can you tell our foreign listeners what that is? Because
you still don't know what it is.
As in me.
It's like a so you basically you do bronze, silver, and gold, and then each one like gets more intense, and it's like a hiking expedition, and you also do other things outside of that, but it's normally, so it starts at like 3 days, and then it goes to 4, and then I think it's a week on the gold, and you literally. I remember I got like shin splints. I got like it was like on gold. It was really really tough. But it was the most fun I had. Like, I love that. I haven't done it since that much. I go camping once a year with my family, but it's something that intense I really really enjoyed. So I think that's one thing which I think maybe would surprise people, because I'm really into my fashion and stuff. I don't think people would think I'd be in hiking boots. But yeah, that's another one.
I feel like we could do a podcast on this alone.
We can keep going, I think.
Yeah, we could have more.
So the first one's a bit serious, and maybe it's a problem. But I think the vast majority of the industry think that because of the ship that we run at Medianett and how varied that is, and it's like a little mini empire on its own, that I, as an individual, would be quite organised, sort of across the board. I'm not at all. I'm just not the same outside of work as I am in work, and I do find time management quite difficult. I do find just getting to everything quite hard. I'm a big fan of just leaving things recently, sort of. I'm a big fan of the swerve. So if you get me anywhere, I'm probably going to leave before you've even noticed that I'm there. So just things like that. Rush through
the questions here then, so we can get to the
end. So yeah, I think I might surprise people just because I think I do put forward a professional exterior that is, it comes across as very organised. So yeah, any help anyone can offer me on that could be much appreciated. I did a little calculation for this next one. I've visited almost 40 cities over 23 countries, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm only 32, so I'm hoping that racks up quite nicely. And I obviously love to travel. That's not anything unique, but I have travelled quite extensively on my own as well, which I think allows you to maybe see more places in shorter spaces of time because you don't have anyone else to consult with. So from one day to the next, if you're like, I'm in Rome, I don't want to be in Rome anymore, I want to go to another city, adjacent city, no one to sort of ask if that's what they want to do as well. You just pack up and go, which is really cool. And that's excluding my hometown or home country of South Africa, where I probably haven't travelled very much there, to be fair. I need to go back at some point and do a bit of that land. But yeah, love to get out, but also love to come back. I love London still. And the third one is that I don't and probably will never drive. I can't, and I don't have any interest in learning how to. Beth is also in that position. She hasn't chosen one of her things because obviously she cares even less than I do. But we, in the beginning...
I love how you're dragging me into this.
Sorry.
Well.
I don't want to be out here on my
as bad as each other.
But over Christmas, when we spent Christmas together, we agreed we were going to do one of those intensive courses over a week.
Probably more emphasis on the crash course. But.
Yeah, probably more emphasis on the wine over Christmas, to be fair. So yeah, that never happened. And I don't actually ever see it happening. Don't think it's for me.
I do, but probably way ahead that I was just not going to be worth it.
You won't legally be able to learn because you'll be so old.
I know. I'd like to have the experience of driving, but also never have to park. So as soon as they bring a car, I know that there are cars that do park themselves. I mean, they don't. But I mean, if there is one that literally parks itself, you just get out in the middle of the road and it parks itself, then I really like that. I don't like driving, to be honest.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's some really surprising things there. Thank you. So on to the serious questions for the next section then. So how do you feel the role of media has changed over the last few years?
Right, okay. I would say there is... I don't think the role's changed an awful lot. I think it still does what it's supposed to be doing. But I think we are... And I know we're going to talk about diversity later, but I think the onus, while it's not just on us, I think we're really pushing for more gender diversity in who we're talking to. And so while I want to get the best story I can, also in my mind at the same time is I need to get the best people and range of people to tell that story for, as part of what I'm researching. So that's probably one thing which has changed recently as part of the role. But I think the main pillars of what we do and what journalists do, I don't think has changed an awful lot, but it's really more just making sure that when you look through a magazine or you look on a homepage of a news website, that it's not just the same faces, and I think that's really, really important. So I think that's one thing which has become more of an issue just because of the charter, which we will talk about later, but that's the sort of thing that is really key at the moment to do.
Yeah, from our side, I think we've seen, especially your firm, leading that a bit more. So rather than just being the publisher of editorials, actually kind of starting the conversation a lot more.
I think you need to as well, and also explain why you're doing it. And so I've taken quite a strict policy. So we run an opinion section, and we give topics out to people, and they come back on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on what we've got with them. And we are pretty booked for the year in those spaces. We organise them at the beginning of the year and then review them halfway through the year. We get loads on a weekly basis of requests. We really want a one-off piece, which we're happy to do, but we've actually banned any more male commentators because the diversity level isn't where we want it to be. We obviously want it 50-50, and it's not there. So anytime anyone comes back, and they're normally PR agencies, and I think they're a little bit stunned at the response, we actually aren't taking any more male commentators, but the topic's really good that you're talking about. So do you have a female equivalent at your company who can talk, confidently about this. It's not about getting any woman. It's, and I think that there are, lots of skilled women out there who just aren't given the opportunity. Because maybe there's a confidence thing, or maybe it's just, I don't know, it's a company culture issue, but we just go back and say no, and 9 times out of 10 they come back with someone who is just as experienced and instead, and I find that really interesting. So we're changing things on that side, we're being a lot stricter. And also when we're putting together our magazines, and also you'll probably mention about like panels and stuff, we're basically saying no, and it is making our jobs a lot more difficult, but we have to. And once you start getting the ball rolling, it's it just makes it so much easier, and people will start noticing that, and then they'll pass it on in their company and say we need to be doing this too. So,
I think it ties in with what Beth's saying. I do feel an acute responsibility as a small publisher in a small nuclear industry, because I'm sometimes taken aback by the seriousness with which people take some of the things that do get published, and how often you'll go into a networking space or an event or a gathering of any sort, and stuff that we've published is referenced. So it is being digested, it is being noticed, and I think that with that comes this duty to lead the way in things like diversity. And also, as our market gets to a point of maturity in this very heated competitive time, we do have to be quite careful about the way that we're conveying news, the way that we're conveying people's opinions. There's quite a few people who are sticking their heads above the parapet at the moment, which is fantastic in a general sense. But not all of those opinions are worth, publishing verbatim. Not all of them need automatic airtime. So our selection process across the board has become much tighter.
Yeah.
In terms of what we publish, how we publish it, what our angles are. So, and I think that this is quite different to how it was in years gone by, where it was a lot more regurgitated, and I don't think that there was necessarily a strategy behind everything that we run in particular. But now I'd say that that's changed.
Yeah, and when we see, while it's great to get a really like juicy comment off someone, if it's quite a flippant remark and there's nothing substantial, there's no evidence behind it, we won't run it, even though it probably can make a great headline. It'll be very clickbaity or whatever the case is, but it's just, it doesn't really add anything to the story. It just lacks anything. So we are more picky on things like that.
Okay. And has the medium used changed? We were talking earlier about the new magazine, obviously, that should be a must read for people.
It has, but I don't think anything's gone away, because we have gone backwards from being online for 10 years and then going into print, which everyone thought was a bit mad. But it's because I don't think there are people who don't read magazines at all. There are also people who don't read news on their phones and don't read news online. So there's everyone has their own taste, but I think it's all about like people's attitudes to how they consume news is different, and it's not normally one or the other. It's normally like, on the bus I like to read my news on the phone, and then at work I like to read it on my laptop, and then at home when I'm relaxing I like to read a magazine. It's just different parts of the day, whatever is easier for them, more relaxing, and people are time poor at the moment, and it's just easier to have a range of options. So I think mediums have changed in the sense that publishing companies should have more options if they want to expand their readership, so that they can read or listen or view the news in different ways that's more convenient to them at whatever stage of the day, I guess.
Yeah, I think with anything, if you come out with an existing medium, or you try and flip something on its head. So we've done something a bit different with our roundtables that we do. So they're filmed rather than transcribed into an article. Whenever, and similarly for the magazine would not have survived and will not survive if we had taken the stance of other trade publications and gone down a very basic route of publishing a magazine, which really was just the offline version of what we do online. It would never have worked. So I think what needs to be done is, I don't think any of the mediums are necessarily broken, but they do need to be reinvented to keep people interested. And you know, it's even small things like if you think about the papers that are most successful, it's because there's something a little bit different about them. Even the color of the pages of the FT, like that's something that at some stage they launched that and they went, this makes us different, this makes us stand out on the newsstands. And we are trying to take that stance with everything that we produce, every new product that we bring out. We just want to fine-tune it, be a little bit more innovative. And you know, we haven't had too many, touch wood, we haven't had too many things that haven't quite worked out by doing that. So I think it does pay off taking a risk with, you know, a little bit of a different take on stuff.
And I also think that the trade publication industry and national press, I don't think there has to be a massive boundary between them and what they look like, because online, while you know, online news is not that much different really. In magazines, why is it so different? Why do you know, glossy high-end fashion magazines look so different? Obviously there's different content inside, but why can't a trade publication look high-end, look like it's expensive and be, you know, on your coffee table and something which you want people to pick up and read? I don't see why there should be a boundary for that, and that's something which we're really exciting about, kind of breaking that boundary down.
Absolutely.
Have you seen a shift in the attitude towards the media? I joined Medianett about over 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, and I think then, I don't think, well, the attitude has probably changed a bit, but in the bridging market anyway, obviously there's so many new lenders in the space, so more people want more market share, and therefore they want to talk to the press. So we're getting inundated with news, and it's the same with brokers and lenders. I don't think attitudes change, but it's more, I guess, then they're more aware of how to talk to press, because I remember I didn't really get any press releases at that time, and if a news story fell through, you know, we had a breaking news or an exclusive story for our, you know, top position in our newsletter, if that went at like an hour before we were going out, I would struggle to find something. Whereas now, like, we have just so much to flick through, because people are approaching us saying we really want an interview. So rather than the other way around, we're pushing the other way, which is great, and they obviously want to be part of what we do, and they want a bit more recognition for whatever they're doing at that point. But it is interesting that, you know, more people want it. I think that is because of how competitive the market is. And also at that time there wasn't that many PR companies in bridging anyway, in finance, but in bridging there wasn't that many, and it was mainly the larger lenders who had someone in-house, and then you may have had a couple of PR companies, but now there's so many, so that really helps, and they're always being, you know, quite responsive, and they want to, they're proactive on trying to, you know, send ideas to us, which is exciting. So people see the benefit of being involved with the media now.
And even like, so we publish like stats that we can find on like how much of the market's run by family office lenders, and then, you know, what's institutional, and we would never have spoken to anyone who was, you know, family office backed, or it was just family office, not even a brand, it was just someone who's just starting out, just lending a bit here and there, and they're actually contacting us regularly, wanting, you know, oh, we've done a case study, we've done this, or we're getting new funding, whatever the case is, and they would never have spoken to press before, but I think because they're seeing how big the market is and how everyone else is working, it has opened up. So I guess that's changed differently.
I think it goes hand in hand with an increase in professionalism, this approach to the media, and being a little bit more, have that sort of sheen on them, brokers and lenders, when it comes to their public relations. I think far be it for me to point people in the direction of our headlines 5 or 6 years ago, because speaking of evolution, we've gone through one hell of an evolution ourselves.
Yeah.
But if I think about the things that you could, you know, catch people commenting on, grab a quote here or there, that will not happen today, because people are a little bit more guarded around what they say about their position, their business. And I think that that's a good thing, because again, coming back to the fact that the market's come to a really nice point where we all need to be responsible for the way that it is perceived by the wider kind of macro situation, regulators, wider market. It's nice to see more people enlisting the help of PR firms. That comes with its own challenges for us as a news publication. You do have layers there that can sometimes stop you from getting perhaps the story that you really want, or getting access to people. But all in all, it's a really good sign that it's becoming a little bit more professional and a bit more kind of tied up in that respect. Yeah, I think it's great.
Definitely.
From the women in finance point of view, we touched on the diversity piece earlier. I know this is something that you're both quite passionate about. What has the uptake been like on that?
Well, in general, the charter publishes its list of signatories. It's 3 times a year, and the latest one in March was sort of 330 firms, something along those lines, representing many thousands of employees. Given that list consists of primarily large banks, and then other larger institutions, which kind of comes on to one of the points we'll probably talk about how we can be doing more. But considering, I just did a little look on the train on the way up, and there's something in the region of 80,000 financial services firms in the UK. So when you look at that, and you look at 330, maybe by this time they've hit 400. Who knows? We all live in hope. I think that there is a huge disconnect between what people think it is to start with, and how relevant or irrelevant it is to them as a business, and I think that is a massive gap that has to be dealt with before we see that list grow in the swathes that it needs to grow, particularly in the realm of smaller businesses, and the majority of UK businesses are less than 10 employees. I think that there's the sense that if you aren't of a certain scale, it doesn't really matter what you do in your business in terms of diversity or balance, because it is going to make an impact, which is absolutely the wrong way to look at this. And every single business of every size and kind of ilk and caliber needs to be saying, I'm in this sector, that means it's me, it's about me.
Well, one signatory from the last time that they published it, they have 2 people.
Exactly.
So it's really for any size company.
And they're a PR firm.
Exactly. So not even, we're obviously a signatory, but and we're not a financial company, but we're in the sector. Exactly. But I just think it's a statement to show that you're taking it seriously, and it really doesn't matter what size company you are. You go as you mean to go on.
Start as you mean to
go on.
Go as you mean to go.
Go as you mean to go.
One of the things that we find, just talking about the take up, so there are when the next list of signatories comes out, because I don't want to be unfair to those who have signed up in between March and now, so we won't name any names, but there are notable exceptions to that list in our market. Pretty large lenders, ones that you wouldn't sort of think would take umbrage with something like the initiative, but they're not there. And anecdotally, some of the responses have been things like, it's not for us right now. I don't really know where to start to unpick that sort of response. I find that really interesting. There's not really much to say to that. I think that's just a deferring tactic. And I think those are the things where other companies, we see each other all the time. We all go to the same events. We all talk about the same thing. This conversation is on everyone's lips. And I do think that a healthy amount of pressure put on our peers is 100% necessary and warranted right now. So if one has a conversation with the lender that you've been working with for years, and it turns out that they happen to not be a signatory for some bogus reason like the one I've just given, the question should be, but why? Let's dig into that a little bit deeper, because you should be. End of. There isn't really anything more to it. I think that there are concerns and misconceptions about the charter. All it is it's a pledge, and if you're not even at the stage where you believe in it, then there's larger issues than, you know, a signature. I think that's a
Yeah.
cultural thing within
Yeah.
your business.
And you're not held to account if you don't hit your targets. It's more that you're pledging to get there, and it might take you longer. They also ask you to make it realistic as well. So if you are a large company and you're not diverse at all, and you've got, you know, very, you know, your board is fully male, then you're going to have a slightly lower target. It's got to make sense, and it's got to be achievable. But at the same time, like, it's not like anyone's going to put out a news story on they haven't reached the target. It's supposed to be a really positive movement, and, you know, promise that we're trying to reach this, because it's a great thing for the industry. And also, the industry's not really growing. Everyone's struggling to get talented people at the moment. There's too many new lenders in the space, and there's also a lot of new brokers in the market. There's not a huge amount of new talent though, so everyone's like, the salaries we're hearing for, you know, BDMs and underwriters, because there's just no one new, and it's an aging advisor market as well. So we need to attract more people, and if we only focus on men, or only make it approachable in, you know, if you're not looking at flexible working, or if you're not looking at how you put your job posts out, if someone reads that and feels like it's actually written by a man for a man, these things all affect it, and you're only going to attract a small portion of people, but it's on the male side. So you need to, if you want to grow the industry, you need to be looking at everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has the uptake been different between brokers and lenders?
There's far more lenders who've signed up, far more, and I think that really comes down to the point of significance or perceived significance of the firms. So brokerages tend to be a little bit smaller. I also think there's a huge contingency of the list, which is actually specialist finance. And I guess if we're looking at, you know, the big groups of brokers, we need to be looking at networks and things like that. I do feel that there's been a lot of noise within our sector. That might be just because we're in it, but I do think that there are, you know, we're not the only ones. There's other publications, and there's other kind of very vocal people who've been talking about this in our market. I feel like I'm not seeing that in the wider mortgage press. And I think that's having an impact on a relatively small number of brokers and lenders when you think about it in the larger group. And we need everyone. I can't stress this enough. It's just, if you're in finance and you think this is a good idea, which you should, just do it.
Nothing.
It's just it's just a very
no time. How long does it take you to fill in the form?
Like a blip, you know. So I definitely think that there's a lot of work to be done on getting brokers to come round to seeing themselves as part of the problem and the solution. Yeah.
Do you think that comes down to education, maybe with the broker? Maybe they don't understand the benefits of it?
Yeah, I mean, the Women in Finance Charter and other partners are doing a lot of smaller events, trying to, with, you know, people who aren't signatories, and then they have talks with people who are signatories, and to really explain the benefits of it. And it's not, I mean, at this stage I don't think we should be explaining what the benefits are. I think it's quite obvious, but some people still don't understand what it's for. But the main thing is just to dispel the misconceptions about, mainly it's about the targets. I think people are really worried about, but it shouldn't be something to be worried about. You're working towards something.
I think away from the charter as well, the general concept of having a diverse business should be one that any prudent business leaders are looking at anyway. It's a known fact that diverse boards are responsible for running more profitable businesses. That's it. Balance is just better for the bottom line. And I think that even so, let's say you've never heard of the charter, because really the charter is just a tool to get us to a point of balance. If people aren't actually walking the walk, then you could say, and I don't want to sound cynical about the charter because I do think it's fantastic, but ultimately all business owners, and this is outside of financial services, should be looking at the parity within their boardrooms and in their businesses, because the conversation is so much wider. I mean, you cannot pick up a publication in any realm without seeing the conversation out there. So for someone to be avoiding that at this stage in 2019, where it is literally the topic of the decade,
to their demise,
and I find that quite interesting. So education, whilst education is always going to be part of the answer, I do think that a lot of the sort of onus is on people to kind of open their eyes and go, what side of history do I want to be on, basically.
So following on from yet another successful B&C Awards, obviously people don't necessarily see your side of it so much. So what's your favourite part of the event?
Well, winners' reaction, like yours, was particularly cool this year. For those who weren't there was a trident involved. Joe may have got hold of the trident and banged it several times in absolute glee. Yeah, because it was a great moment.
It wasn't our trident, for the record. We didn't just take one with us, just in case.
Yeah, they
really
just was
the
trident. I think... it's a really difficult one, that I put the actual... moment, which is my favorite, is when people walk into the room and I get to sort of take a little step back for a second and watch their reactions of what we've created, because we do this transportative thing where we want to take people away from the daily grind and we want to really immerse them in this fantasy. And this year we were really proud of the decor, the props, the creation that we'd done with the Atlantis theme. And I do think, and even casting my mind back to things like the Willy Wonka one as well, and just watching people come in and like look around the room in I don't want to say awe, because that sounds a bit much, but I mean awe. That's what I mean. It's full awe. It's full awe. And I think that moment is really lovely. Obviously gathering everyone there on a kind of, I guess on a more holistic sense, that's great that we're able to grow the event year on year in line with the market, but also that people support us. We're a smaller publishing house than some of the others. We're a smaller business. We do a lot with relatively few people, and I think that the support is actually it makes me quite emotional. At least once when I'm on that day, it's sort of you just survey the room and you think this is really great. To see everyone here in support of not only the people who've done really well. It is about the winners, but it's also about a damn good day that we put on. And it's lovely that people keep coming back for that. And I must say, and we did a little bit of coverage in the next issue of the magazine on this, and I made a point of it. This is the event that people's teams want to come to, and we love hearing that, because that's the one that they sort of go, this is the day out I want, and I want to come out in force to support either someone who's nominated, or just to see everyone. And this isn't about everybody bringing their prized brokers to an event. This is about having a great day out, to thank your team for getting you to that point as well. We've got a lot of unsung levels to this market, which I think they don't get very much airtime, and then they get to have this day out and they get to see what makes it tick, and that's people. And we've got loads of great people that come to that day.
And we're really honoured that, a business will take their whole sales and underwriting team out, whoever they bring, and
not do any business for a day.
Not do any, and that's exactly it, and not do any business for the day, because they definitely won't be doing any business afterwards.
Yeah, definitely on the next day either.
I needed like a 4-day weekend. But yeah, it's that is really nice to see, and also people love it. And we changed it to a nighttime event last year, and people were like, "No, we want the day." So
I was like, "Are you sure?"
So it is great. I would say it probably sounds really bad, but the best part, I love everything about the event. I think the best part of the event is when I finish my thank you speech and I can have a drink, and actually more just like really chat to people and have have a really good time, because before then I'm not a nervous speaker, but I don't like to mess up, so I'm thinking I I want to have great conversations with everyone, but I've got this in the back of my mind. I've got to be up here at this time and all that, you know.
Yeah.
So as soon as that speech is done, and I know I can just start mingling with people and catching up with everyone like properly without having any worries, like that's really nice. And then obviously the after party is amazing, and I stayed until the lights went on. So.
I said this to someone yesterday. I left when I saw people actually moshing in the club.
Okay.
That was my cue to call it a night, because at 1:30, if you've got people literally moshing and crowd surfing, I think it's time maybe to just call it.
That was my cue to get some more Patronus.
Brilliant. It's always one of the highlights that we look for in the year. So always a good day out.
Good.
So what's next? What's next on your agendas?
I mean, what we set out to do as a business probably about 5 or 6 years ago is to have one main project per year, and not exceed that too much, just because we want to make a very, very big success of whatever endeavors we do. And again, coming back down to it, we're a small team. We have to be very lean and kind of clever, smart with our resource that we've got. So obviously 2019 has been all about the magazine. Most of 2018 was as well, but it was behind the scenes. So the magazine is our most important project right now. We're putting everything that we have behind that to make sure that it succeeds for the rest of this year and into 2020 and beyond. So that's something that we feel very passionately about, and we want to see be a staple part of our portfolio, definitely.
Yeah.
We are looking at another tool in relation to the women in finance piece, which is about profile raising, and it's about confidence building in the market and for the women in the market, and also to pull more women into the market, and eventually around the whole diversity piece as a whole. So that is something that's in the wings. It's a pretty simple solution, we think, to a problem that we have every single day, about finding women who are willing and able, and also have the backing of their businesses or their own backing, their own confidence to put themselves forward for opportunities. So we're going to create something that's going to make it very easy for them to
register, sign up,
state that they're up for certain things, panel opportunities, comment, editorial, the whole range of it. And we're going to get the support of PR companies for things like this. Eventually we want to look into the HR piece. So we do have some things we do have a partnership in the wings for recruitment as well. So that's something that we're sort of dipping our toe in. People have for a long time asked us, when you're going to have a jobs board, when you're going to get involved in that sort of thing. It's not something that we've seen as being there hasn't been a very clear opportunity for us until now, but now the conversation has gone so clearly in the direction of a talent shortage, and we're fascinated by that, and we do think that we're leading some of the conversation around it, that we think now's a good time to partner with a firm and kind of try and work towards getting to a solution or to a comfortable place for the market, because that is a problem. It's a real problem, this shortage, and if it continues the way it is, we're going to end up in a very inflated recruitment market, and that's not going to be good, because if anything goes wrong, where are these people going to go? Because they're not going to attract these salaries. Their lifestyles go up. I don't know, I just see this whole thing snowballing into something that is very unsustainable. So we want to get involved with that,
especially if we do see some consolidation in the market. I know it's been people talking about it for a long time, and it's going to be our cover story for the next issue, which is coming out end of this month. But if there are lenders exiting the market, or if lenders are merging with other lenders, what are happening to the staff? And that's really important to think about, especially if their salaries are so high. That's huge.
And to finish the way we started with the regular question, if you could make one change to the industry, what and why?
I would say, and we were chatting about it before we started the podcast, the flippant remarks some people make in the industry, but won't back it up. I think that's one thing which I would like to see less of, and more transparency. So, for example, on default rates, we're doing a big piece on it at the moment, and it's taken us months to get to what we want, and we're still not there, and we're asking, you know, lenders and brokers about excessive default interest rates, and the reactions we're getting is very cagey, but everyone's still talking about it in the industry, and it's like a rumour mill. As soon as one person talks about it, everyone's talking about it, and then it's a thing, but there's no evidence to back it up. And I think that's one thing which happens quite a bit in the industry, where someone says one thing and then all of a sudden it's a huge problem, but there's nothing there to explain it. So that's something which we're really keen on trying to dispel, and we can't do that without the help of people in the industry, and we're happy to anonymize things as well, but if we can't get that from key industry professionals, then we really struggle. So I'd like to see more of that, because that will benefit the industry, and will again further professionalize the industry. So yeah, I'd say more kind of openness. I understand you can't give away all information, but just so that the end result's a good thing.
When I'm going to come back to the diversity piece, because it is a really important thing for this market to get a handle on, and to perhaps look at adjacent markets as well, and think the rate of change just isn't fast enough. While we wait for it to happen, and it will happen, we will get to a point where we're more comfortable with the balance. The people that are in businesses that do represent groups of underrepresented people, they need to either thrust themselves or be thrusted by their businesses into the limelight to address the balance. It's profile and confidence raising is everything. You can't build on something you don't ever see. If there's no representation of certain groups of people and women in a sector, that it can't grow. It's just not ever going to be organic. And I think in the meantime, nobody's got the silver bullet for this. We've just got to keep building and building. But in the meantime, I do think that businesses need to get behind those people, and they need to put them into and support them into positions of profile raising, so that we're just seeing more women, for example, in the market. We have to increase that visibility.
That's been really interesting. There's a lot of really inspiring things that have come out of that, so hopefully you've inspired more than just me today, and the listeners as well.
Thank you.
Caron, Beth, thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
To hear the rest of the series and be notified first of future episodes, hit subscribe. And to discuss any of the topics covered in today's CrystalCast, or any other specialist finance requirements, call us on 01827 301070, or visit our website at www.crystalsf.com. Thank you to today's guests, and as always, thank you for listening.